Hey everyone, welcome back to our live for Navajo Tea Time. Thanks for showing up.
Hey everyone.
Sorry, just making sure something's working. um, yeah, so today is November 5th, it says here. That's fine. Um, I just copy and paste the note, so it just has the date from last time we went live. Like, it's not October,
I
so.
saw that.
So what happens to me is when plans I have change, like really big plans, and they change, it's just
Mhm.
like my brain throws the entire schedule out the window, and I have to take time to put it back together. So that's what happened. And Adrian's like, "Are we going live tomorrow? You didn't post anything." And I was like, "Yes, we are. Just let my brain fix itself real quick." So then I guess I'll start with my roses and thorns. That'll lead into that pretty well. So my thorn is that yesterday I was supposed to have this really cool like planner date with a fellow colleague entrepreneur from Change Labs, but then we had the idea to try and make it a little bigger. Invite more people and from
Mhm.
the community who want to like goal set and everything. And because we
Mhm.
did that and because we made a flyer, it kind of classified it as an event. And so there was a lot of forms that we were gonna have to start
Mhm.
filling out and doing everything for that. And it's like we can't do it tomorrow. It's like okay. So I was in the middle of like getting my journal already. It's like my new journal is gonna be kind of like a traveler's notebook
Ooh, that's cute.
where I can
Uh-huh.
interchange like different notebooks and have different sections. I went and printed off my sticker sheet, um,
Ooh.
like Navajo and English, like year at a glance
I
on
want one
sticker
of
paper.
those.
I can get you one. I just gotta buy more sticker paper.
Okay.
So yeah, so I was getting all ready, and she was like, "Oh, we kind of have to postpone it," and I'm like, derailed everything. But then
Oh
that also
man.
kind of led into the rose that like in December we're gonna plan a bigger event, trying to get more people in, so it's not so last minute for everyone else, and it's gonna be
Mhm.
like a goal setting session. So it'll be
Cool.
fun. One of my passions, making plans.
Do you guys have a date yet?
um, Nothing official. It's kind of tentative to like December 2nd is what we're thinking,
Okay.
but
Is that
that'll be more in like announcements with like Change Labs, or if you follow any of my social media, it'll
Oh, I
be
see.
there.
Okay, on a Tuesday?
Yeah, Tuesday is kind of my only kid-free day because I can leave the kid with
Mhm.
my husband because it's his day off.
Oh, okay. Mhm. Oh, I wish I could go to that. That would be so fun. But I already have something I have to do.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Mm-hmm.
So, what are your
I'm sure
roses
you're
and
going to get it.
thorns?
Did you do your rose?
Yeah, it was leading into having that more interactive event.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Sorry. Well, let's see. My thorn is that I caught a cold and it sucks. And so I've been dealing with it since last Friday. And I thought like rest and relaxation would really help over the weekend. And it was going pretty good. But then I I had to do a late night run because my husband got into a car accident on Sunday night, and I had to go rescue him up in the mountains. And so it was like a whole thing, and it disrupted my rest and relaxation. So, but everything's fine. He's okay. Yeah, but our vehicle's not. So that's my thorn. It sucks. But yeah, thankfully we have a vehicle that has a high safety rating. So the car took the brunt of the damage, and he was fine. He walked away unscathed, so that's good. Um, and then my rose is I'm going to be going to New Zealand this month, and so I'm really excited about it. I know. I've never been. Everyone I know who's gone has said it's like totally magical. So, it's kind of cool too cuz like I was on Facebook earlier today cuz I'm a dinosaur. Just kidding. And anyways, I saw this really funny post. It shows I don't know if anyone's like a Lord of the Rings nerd, but I totally am. Anyways, so it shows someone who looks kind of like Aragorn walking, you know, and it says, "I googled my symptoms. Turns out I need to be I need to book a flight to New Zealand and explore Middle Earth while dressed as a ranger." And I was like, "Yeah, exactly." So that's gonna be me. So I'm excited because yeah, I get to be there in that space, and I'm excited.
And it's kind of
I
like
think I'm a hobbit.
spring and summer there, right?
Yeah, it's the beginning of summer. So pretty exciting. Did you know that New Zealand has a really high UV index?
I did
It
not know
does,
that.
and I didn't know. Yeah, and so I actually met Linda Tuohy Smith this past week too at ASU. She was here with a group of authors, and I attended and I met her, and I was like, and she, I don't know if you read any of her work, but she's done some amazing work, and a lot of it was pivotal to when I was doing a minor in applied Indigenous studies. She wrote Indigenous methodologies, and I um, I got to thank her, you know, like face to face for her work. And she gave me her phone number. We took some pictures together, and she gave me her phone number. And she's like, you know, let's reconnect in New Zealand. I was like, okay, so I'm all. And but I asked her, I was like, what's one like piece of advice you would give me, you know, because I've never been. And she's like, bring your sunscreen. She's like, if you don't wear your sunscreen, you're gonna burn. I was like, dang, okay. So so I gotta get. So I packed sunscreen. I need to get a hat for sure. I was thinking of getting a Dodgers hat because the Dodgers won the World Series, so that's like a super big rose too. I know. I was like, so we were watching the series, and I was telling my sister about it on Halloween because she came out here to visit, and we took the boys trick or treating, and it was funny because all the Dodger fans were also projecting the game onto their garage doors, so they're giving candy out, or they had their garages open, and they had the game going on inside, and so it was like this big community thing. So almost at every stop, I got to see what was going on, and then my husband was texting me and updating me updates too. But she was like, "Since when are you a fan?" She's like, "I didn't even know you watch baseball," and I'm like, "Since last year." Like, dad. She's like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah." I was like, we reconnected with baseball last year, and then they just happened to make it to the World Series, and we just happened to watch the entire series, and they won, and now we're fans for life. So we've been tracking them. Like we've even watched the game in Japanese because we couldn't get the American feed. So we got the Japanese feed, which is perfect because all they do is pay attention to the Japanese players, which is really funny. Um, so yeah, so now we're like big fans, and we watched the series again this year, and they won again, and it was awesome. So yeah, those are my roses, I guess. That's my bouquet of roses.
That's cool.
Yeah, so I'm excited.
I think being like a super intense sports fan makes getting gifts for Christmas easier because they always have sports things.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously. I think so too. I think so too. I've never really been big on sports at all. The only teams I used to pay attention to were the Arizona teams because it's like I'm a hometown girl, right? So I was always like, I've gone to see the Cardinals play once, and my friends and I used to watch them. My sisters and I, my mom, we used to have like football parties. Because the funny thing is, my mom is all about football, and my dad is not. And all my aunts, they're like all kind of like, I wouldn't say they're jocks, but they all love sports. Like we would always go to all the football games at the high school, you know, and cheer on the hometown teams. But my mom was a big. She was like a member of the Bird Gang. Like she did the dance and everything. which is really funny. But yeah, so and then like in when I was at UA, my friend Tiffany and I used to we were like committed to the Suns. Like we used to watch every basketball game. And so yeah, and then I kind of got into baseball through the Diamondbacks. I went to an alumni game. NAU does these like alumni events in the Valley, and last year they were giving out discounted tickets to see the Diamondbacks play. They did like a Diamondbacks NAU collab. So I hung out with a bunch of my colleagues, I guess, classmates at NAU, and we went to see the baseball game. That was really fun. And then that was kind of like me dipping my toes into baseball again. And then we took our kids to a baseball game on the 4th of July, like a year or two ago, like last year. I don't know, 2023 maybe. That was really fun. It was very like all American, which was funny. We had hot dogs and and like alcohol free beer, and then we watched the fireworks afterward. It was cool. So I don't know.
You enjoy
I
it.
do. I do. I love it. It's really fun. I like learning the games and all the players and the backstories and the history. It's really cool.
Yeah, my husband's grandma's like that. She has like a little notebook or something. I don't know if she has a notebook, but she just like she remembers all the stats of like the players and
Yay.
everything. She always watches a game.
That's cool. I don't have that much space in my brain for that type of information, but I do enjoy it as like a spectator sport. You know what I mean? And it's something me and my husband like to do. Like for his birthday month, I took him to see the Dodgers in here at Chase Field, and I got really good tickets, and it was awesome. And then we went to Boston over the summer, and we saw the Red Sox play the Dodgers, and it was at Fenway Park, and I got to see Babe Ruth's bat. It was so freaking cool because Babe Ruth was like my favorite, right? Like I'd never seen anyone play like him until Shohei Ohtani, who plays for the Dodgers now, and like he was like the best, you know. And yeah, so and I was like a big fan of the Sandlot when I was a kid too, so that's kind of my like early like playing baseball with my cousins and watching the Sandlot. And my I became a Dodgers fan early because of that kid in the Sandlot. What was his name? Do you remember?
I
Oh, what
like
was
The
his name?
Sandlot for like the almost murder dog plot of the horror story aspect. I don't. I was just like, when I say
Yeah.
go sports, that I mean it. Go sports. That's the depth of my enthusiasm about sports.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, was his name Benny?
I. It sounds
Benny
familiar.
Rodriguez? Was it?
This is a guy with
Was
the
he on the
Converse.
Sam? Yes. Oh my God, first crush. He was so awesome. But yeah, he was like the man. And I remember in the movie he ended up playing for the Dodgers. And I was like, okay, so that's the team. You know, that's who we're all gonna love forever.
Okay.
That's my logic.
If it works, it works, right?
Yeah, Benny Rodriguez. Oh man. Yep, he was the one. Just kidding. Like, I don't know. Yeah, so funny. I was a kid. Anyways, yeah. So, shall I move on to our topic for tonight?
Um.
Is anyone on right now? Do they have any
Yeah.
questions?
There's no questions right now. I think they're just listening us
Okay.
talk about sports and
Okay.
and things. Yeah, there's some people on right now. So I kind of switched up the order today just because I feel
Okay.
like there's something we wanted to talk about. We got an email
Oh.
this afternoon from one of like a longtime viewer, follower, Brandon. He has a new nonprofit called Navajo-Hopi Snap Relief Coalition. So
Mhm.
it's in the hopes to relieve some of the uncertainty with the future of SNAP and other food programs. He started this coalition, to help bring basic necessities to those in need. One of his plans is
Mhm.
to visit the chapter houses across the Navajo Nation and the communities on Hopi to deliver food, water, and other essentials directly to families. So we have
Mhm.
the links in the description of this live, and then I can put the links in the chat now, just so it like correlates with what we're talking about. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, I felt like
Yeah.
with the way things are going right now, it was good to um, be able to highlight, people in our community,
Mhm.
people in our Navajo-T community doing some great things for
Mhm.
people.
Yep. Props to Brandon. And just to provide some context for those who don't know, um, the because of the government shutdown, there are a lot of programs that are getting cut, and SNAP was one of them. And a lot of people are really upset because that eliminates their ability to feed their families. And so so the threat was there. People are like really upset about it because SNAP is not a it's not a privilege. You know what I mean? It's like you're in that situation because you're below the poverty line. And to eliminate that would really put a lot of families and individuals in a really bad spot. So what I've seen in Arizona is there's a lot of schools that are offering, they're reminding parents that children have access to breakfast and lunch at schools. A lot of them are making that free for them, having it be funded by the school. And then some schools are even offering dinner options to like to students, so that they know for sure that the children are going to have a nutritious breakfast, lunch, and dinner so they can perform in the classroom, and in sports. So that's been really freaking cool. Like mad props to the schools that are doing that. And then I wanted to check up on the status of things, because this topic came up on our list. So as of November 3rd, NPR had done a story on this, titled "The Current Status of SNAP and the Other Food Assistance Option." So it opens up saying, the Trump administration says it will restart SNAP benefits, but will pay out only half the normal amount. But private and other public resources have been available for families needing assistance. So, in the state of Arizona, there was a push by Governor Hobbs to make nutritional benefits available to the people of Arizona. And I've also heard of other states doing that too, to make sure that people are able to feed their families. So this is really crazy because I remember not even a year ago, well, maybe a year ago exactly, where the Trump administration was saying that the cost of living was going to go down, the cost of food was going to go down significantly, and that was one of the major points that they were saying, that he was saying and campaigning on, saying, I promise this, I'm going to make your life better, we're going to have affordable living, housing, we're going to have affordable food, everyone's going to be better off if I'm in office. And what, like a year later, they're threatening to cut everything, and they are getting cut, so people are going to get 50% of what they previously had, which sucks. So yeah,
Yeah.
pretty twisted,
And
awful turn of events.
you always hear people saying, like, well, if they just went to work, they'd get, but honestly, you can't receive SNAP if you don't have a job. That's one of the requirements to get it. And other people are on SNAP, like foster care kids, their families receive SNAP. Um, certain people with
And
disabilities,
students,
and
yeah, and students with families.
yeah, but like I'm saying, like when you have a foster kid, you receive SNAP to help feed that child who doesn't otherwise
Hmm.
have a family, and then the elderly people who have like Social Security aren't working because they're too
Hmm.
old to work or or are disabled and don't have the ability to work receive SNAP.
Hmm. I know people, like, they like to glamorize it. They like to say horrible things like, oh, there's these welfare moms, and they try to put all of the pressure and all of the blame on individuals, especially mothers. And they're just like, well, you should have made better choices. Well, you should have, you know what I mean? And it's just like, first of all, like, shut up. I'm just kidding. But like, you know, people make choices, and children are like, the way they're trying to take foods out of the mouths of children is so deplorable and so disgusting. And the situations are unique for everybody. Like, I mentioned students because I was a student at one time, and I had two young children, and I had to apply for SNAP benefits because my scholarships did not cover. It covered my housing on campus. I lived on campus in family housing at NAU, but I had two young kids, and I couldn't cover all the expenses because my scholarships only covered the cost of living, my tuition, and my books, and my like school supplies. And at the time, my husband wasn't working. So it was like a tough situation. And I remember being really stressed about it. And I asked my mom, like, what am I going to do? And she was saying, you should apply for those benefits. She said, those benefits are for you. They're there for the people. And I was like, I don't want to, like, that's embarrassing. And she was like, don't be embarrassed by it. She said, there's nothing embarrassing about feeding your children. There's nothing embarrassing about being able to buy them good quality food that's going to nourish them so they can grow and be healthy. And she was saying, and she reminded me, like, you've been working since you were 15 years old, and now you're in school, and now you need help, and there's help there for you. So she was like, don't let your pride get in the way of your kids having the ability to eat. And so she was the one that encouraged me. She's like, go over there and apply for them. You're doing the best you can. You know what I mean? You're not like out of work. You're going to school. You're getting a college degree. You know what I mean? And she made a lot of sense, and I knew she was right. So I went over there and I applied for them, and I was able to get approved, and I was able to. I remember I used to go to New Frontiers. New Frontiers takes SNAP, and I also know Natural Grocers does. So I could buy my kids really good, healthy, organic food so that they were able to eat good 3 times a day. And that was a privilege. That was amazing. I was so thankful. I'm still thankful for this, like, for that to this day. And that's why I have no problem like paying taxes to support social benefits. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it's there for. And now I have the ability to pay into that, and so I do, and I don't complain about it. I do it with a good heart because I know that there's people out there that need it, and it's not just because they're being reckless with their lives. It's because I don't know what their situations are, and I know that it was good for me when I needed it, and it helped my family move forward. And then I got to a point where I was above the income requirement. I exceeded the threshold, and so I wasn't qualified for it anymore. But I was okay with that because I wasn't in poverty anymore, and that's a blessing. And so I think I think what they're doing is really wrong. I was very upset about it when I heard about it, and I'm really glad that there's programs out there that are stepping up to help, and I'm glad the states are stepping up to help too. Yeah,
Yep, for sure. And since we
yeah.
kind of like, since we kind of moved our announcements, the middle, just reminder that our series, The Silence They Left, season that we started in October, and then we begin, blah blah blah. What's the word? Resume next Friday, just because we're doing the live now, and so I'll have more time to edit the remaining episodes, and they'll be coming out
Mhm.
for the I think we have 2 more episodes coming out for those 2 Fridays, and then we will have Vlogmas,
Mhm.
which is Adrian's favorite time.
I know. I know it's gonna be stressful this year, though. I can already feel it. I'm like, shoot, now I gotta edit videos.
Yeah.
But I like the challenge.
Yeah, and so one of the things that I'm gonna try and focus on for Vlogmas is a lot of cooking and baking, and so that's kind of one of the main topic for this episode is kind of like food and cooking. I was just really just rattling off a couple of ideas of things like how do you find new cooking recipes, like, or do you use old cooking recipes that are handed down from family, or do you just go online and Google, chocolate chip cookie recipe or stuffing recipe, because I kind of have a mix of both. Um, like my mom's had this Christmas cookie recipe that she's had for years, and now I have it. And I have this zucchini cookie recipe that I found and modified that my sister constantly asks for so that she can make it for her in laws. And there was this
I know.
weird
She's like, I need those brownie
superstition.
points.
There's this superstition I have. It was like you can't give it out to non-family members, and she gave it once to one of her in-laws. Um, and then that card it disappeared. That what I have it on a physical card, those recipe cards, and it disappeared for the longest time, and I couldn't find it. And then just like this past last year, it just like I was looking through all my recipe books, and then it just like flopped out, and I'm like, I don't know. There's
Hmm.
like I have these weird superstitions. I talk about Navajos being superstitious. Me, I'm one of them. Because there's these little
Hmm.
things that happen. It's like you gave it to a non-family member, and we lost the recipe for a while. Yeah, like my mom has like a couple of old, really, really old recipes where like some of the ingredients you're like, what the heck is that? And you're like, oh, it's condensed milk. Why would you call it that thing? Or like it used to be called that.
Hmm.
And it's fun looking up different recipes in them and trying them out.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yep, I started making the recipes that I would see on TikTok and then now on Instagram Reels because I deleted my TikTok app. But I would see these really delicious looking recipes sometimes and I would try them out. And of course, sometimes they were really good, sometimes they weren't all that. But lots of wins. And then the few that I do like that I want to keep in the family, that the whole family likes, I will save them. I'll write them down and put them on a recipe card. I also have some old recipes that my mom had. And she also has like an old Betty Crocker cookbook. She would like, she used to cook some of those when I was little. So when I make them, they kind of remind me of back then. But I also collect cookbooks. So there's a few cookbooks that I have where there's some really like there's some favorites that me and the kids have. Because usually, like when we're bored, I'll be like, go through the recipe book and pick something to make for dinner. So they'll pick something, and then we'll go to the store and buy all the ingredients, and then I'll let them make it, or we'll make it together. And so there's this biscuit recipe that Reese Witherspoon put in her cookbook, and it's freaking delicious. It's so good. We make it every Thanksgiving and every Christmas now. It's my daughter has perfected it. Um, like it's not so much the ingredients, but it's how you treat the dough and the flour. There's like a very specific process to it, and having the right tools is key too. So that was something we learned, and then what else? And these are things that are not in the cookbook. There's things you have to figure out, as you're doing it. And then there's a Julia Child. I have a Julia Child cookbook, and my son he loves beef bourguignon, and so we found the perfect. So you have to buy wine, and I made it. So I bought a cooking wine the first time we did it, and it was disgusting. And so I went and I tried a Cabernet the second time and I hated it because it just tasted like it didn't it's supposed to cook out the alcohol, but it tasted like the wine and I didn't like it. And this last time I got a Merlot, and I think it was a Merlot, but it was really good. And so we found the perfect wine for the recipe. And so now you just have to try it. You know what I mean? You got to try different things out to see what ingredients work best that your family likes. And we also learned too that if you add a lot of mushrooms to it, like the more mushrooms, the better. It actually tastes like super good. So just little tweaks to the recipe. Um, Less wine, more mushrooms turned out to be perfect for us. We all loved it. So yeah.
Yeah.
But that's like the recipe my son likes.
I think that's the fun part of like when you get used to baking the same thing over and over again, and then like, oh, I'm just gonna add this ingredient, or I'm gonna take this one out because I don't really like it. like with my zucchini recipe, I add cloves because I like the way
Mm.
cinnamon, nutmeg, and cloves taste together. I don't know. I like my mouth being numb, but um, so I add cloves to it, and it didn't like the original recipe didn't ask for cloves. So when I lost it
Mhm.
a couple years ago, I looked it up. I'm like, I remember adding cloves to this. Like, I'll just do it again, and and yeah. So, but also
And
like
it turned out good.
it turned out good. I love cloves in my baked goods.
Mhm.
My
Nice.
grandma, she was going through all of her stuff and she found a really old commodity food recipe book,
Mhm.
and it
Mhm.
has her like the recipe she uses to make yeast bread.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I'm like, I think I want to go to her house and just take a snapshot and try to make yeast bread. Because like there's so many
Nice.
different recipes online that have like little tweaks and ask for like different things. And I always go to the
Mhm.
comments recipes online,
Mhm.
and someone's like, "Oh, I added this instead of this," or "I added this because it was too much sugar," or "I waited this much longer
Mhm.
because it wasn't done yet," and so that's helpful.
Mhm.
But speaking of
Yeah,
commodity
I
food,
agree.
sorry, it's hard to talk with
Speaking of
like
what?
the commodity food, um,
Oh yeah.
as part of like living in a food desert and with this food uncertainty coming in from lots of families. It's it's kind of hard. Um, in a way because like you can only buy what you can buy because that's all there is in the store. Like here in Cameron, like I said, like we just have that gas station with some
Mhm.
food, and it's not always like organic or the best products. Like mostly it's
Mhm.
cheaper than name brand. Like not even name brand, but like off
Mhm.
brand, store brand is like a one below it, and that's what most of it is because it's a lot cheaper to have it shipped out here.
Mhm.
So we don't shop there often, but sometimes you don't have money to go an hour into town, buy the better quality food.
Mhm.
And so like you can only
Yeah,
use
that's how
what
it
you
was.
have.
Yeah, that's how it was when we lived in Saley. We just had that one gas station, and very, very limited supply. And like they would have these tiny, like, say you're gonna get a ketchup bottle. You could buy like a big ketchup bottle in town, right? For like, I don't know, let's just say $5. It'll be $5 for like a tiny one. Like a really small, tiny ketchup bottle, so everything was more expensive and not good quality at all. But you just gotta make it work. And so we got really creative with our recipes. I used to get like I could always find celery and carrots at the store, and so I would like chop them up really fine and make like a box of rice roni and throw it in there, and that was pretty good. We got our vegetables and we got something that would kind of sustain our hunger too. You know what I mean? But what we ended up doing, especially after the pandemic, was just buying a lot of rice, like those big bags of rice, like the real heavy ones. We used to buy those, and like lots of oatmeal and beans, and we had that with every meal. And sometimes all we had was beans and rice. You know what I mean, in a tortilla. And so you get really creative with what you eat. But I think like the challenges though of trying to like survive when food is so expensive, that's real. I think everyone's feeling that. And I think it's maybe even more reason to try to get creative with your recipes and to try to see what can get you further for the least amount of money. And like commodity food, even though like it's not the best, sometimes that's what gets you through. Like I remember my mom used to get that when we were like super, super poor when I was a kid. And she would bring a box back of like food, and she knew how to make it taste good. She used seasoning, she would add a few things, and that's what we would eat. And we survived. We were okay, but my mom was very much like, do everything you can. I also learned from my mom that if you go to the food bank, you're always going to get some form of vegetable or fruit, you know what I mean? And it's usually not the like in the times it's like not rotten yet, but it's, it's getting there. So you've got to cook it right away. So my mom was like, if you go to the food bank, make sure you cook your vegetables and you eat your fruit like quickly. So she would make like pancakes and she would chop up the fruit, like say it was a bag of apples, and then she would cook it on the stove and add cinnamon, and the sugars in the apples would kind of start to caramelize, and she would pour that over our pancakes. And so, or oatmeal, or if it was like commodity food, the farina. And so we're able to get like some vitamins and nutrients from it. So there's, moms are magical. But I think we have access to Google and TikTok and Instagram reels. So I think maybe like looking for recipes that include like beans, rice, pastas, and vegetables, like how to get creative with your recipes to try to make something super delicious. It's not very expensive.
Sure.
My husband said he used to basically live on beans and rice, like the majority of his upbringing, because he was like, we didn't have a lot. But my grandma knew how to make beans and she knew how to make rice. And so every morning he would get like beans and rice in a tortilla and head to the bus. Like his grandma would be like, okay, now go to the bus and like send him out. So he was like, that's all I ate for many, many, many years. And like he grew up poor too. So we both have that in common. We knew what it was like to have our moms and grandmas do everything they could to make ends meet.
Yeah, I understand that. But then also like there's this other added thing of like living with people who have like food allergies or are just like
Oh yeah.
extreme um like my daughter, I there's some foods like I could cook so many foods with some of the things that we have, but she won't eat it. Like she doesn't like lasagna
Mm,
because there's that other cheese, I think the ricotta cheese in there, and she doesn't like it, so she
mhm,
won't eat any of it. But yeah, so it's like it's hard dealing with like picky eaters, but also like with my sister now, her baby's allergic to dairy. And so she has to cut out
mm.
dairy when she nurses him because that dairy protein goes through the milk. And with
Oh,
WIC, when
yeah.
you're on
Mhm,
WIC, there's a lot of dairy. And it's one of my gripes about WIC because, like, it's a lot of dairy, it's a lot of carbs, and you get, like, a lot of juice and cereal. But with my son and my daughter, I was gestationally diabetic. So getting all the juice and getting all the dairy and all the carbs, it wasn't I could hardly eat any of it because it would skyrocket my sugar
mhm,
because dairy also has sugar in it too, which is kind of annoying. But they're like, oh, here you can
mhm,
like here's all this food. It's like I can't eat more than half of the food you're giving me, and so it's kind of annoying
mhm,
with that. But like it's free food, but it doesn't help if you can't actually eat any of it.
That's challenging. So what do you do? What's your advice to people that might have those, like, or be in that situation?
I guess it's really difficult. That's why like I was talking about looking up different recipes, because
Mhm,
you can look up recipes that don't have dairy or find a way to substitute dairy out of specific foods. Um, with my
mhm,
picky eater, we just try to find food she likes and cook that. But sometimes me and my husband, we want zucchini in some of our food, so we'll just like pick the food out for her, and we always let her know like she's allowed not to eat something, so she doesn't have that negative
mhm,
food association. So like sometimes we'll make a stir
mhm,
fry or like a one pot meal where we have the meat and the vegetables and the potatoes all together. And she's like, "There's vegetables in here." I'm
mhm,
like, "Well, then pick it out. Just take it out. You don't have to eat it. Just eat something." And
mhm,
sometimes if it's a new food, like here, try it once. Take a bite, try it, and yeah. So just trying to get her to explore more things. But like with the wick, I don't know how to really address that. It's just a gripe I have with like it being so
mhm,
polarizing, and it's really hard. Like most of the stuff they can't substitute, like the chips. not the chips, the cereal and like the
Mhm.
cheese. There's no substitute. They won't let you. And with the milk, you can get a milk
Yeah.
substitute, but it's like very limited on the options.
Mhm. Man, that sucks. Yeah, I. That's too bad. I don't know any. I haven't experienced that, so I can't really relate to that. But um, that sucks. I mean, the one thing I used to do when I used to get WIC was just cut the juice with water, because I know there's a lot of sugar in that, and I don't want the kids having rotted out teeth. And plus, it would make it last longer. So I would cut the juice, give them more water, a little bit of juice, and then they didn't really have any problems with dairy, thank God. So the cheese was awesome. Like they loved it. They used to love string cheese. But yeah, I don't know. I guess there's always the option not to get those items, but in just the vegetables, you know what I mean? But I don't know. That sucks. It's not
Yeah,
fair.
like I said, like there's no real way to like substitute. Like, oh, I can't get cheese. Maybe I can get like an extra item or like an extra thing of peanut butter, or an extra thing of beans or something. But they
Mm-hmm.
don't have that. It's so strict.
It is strict, yeah. And it's like all based on the food pyramid too, which is kind of outdated. You know what I mean?
I heard
So,
I heard like it's also based on like lobbyists, like the dairy
mm-hmm,
industry really pushes for their specific items, obviously, to be bought at the grocery store.
mm-hmm.
Because like me
So they have the
personally,
government funding to provide those items for free.
yeah, and like me personally, I don't consume milk. I only use it with cereal and sometimes a recipe, but even if it's
Mm-hmm,
something else. And
mm-hmm,
like forced to like before I had kids or WIC, I didn't have milk at all in my diet because I don't like it,
mm-hmm,
and it's not a you don't have to have milk. Um,
mm-hmm.
but yeah, so I don't know. It's just gripes.
Those are real grapes. I mean, those are things that affect people, right? Like, that's the thing that pisses me off about it is like we all need to eat. You know what I mean? Regardless of what our diet is and what our allergies are and our sensitivities are, or even just our personal preferences. Like, we all need food to be nourished. And the fact that that's one of the things being attacked is so messed up. Like, we all need food, we all need clean water, we need clean air, we need, I mean, people think education is a privilege, but I think it's a right. And I think quality healthcare isn't a privilege either. I think that's a right, but those are the things being attacked, and I just don't understand how that's being allowed to happen. It is upsetting to me.
I remember
So, yeah.
seeing some posts about how it's an actual tactic to break down people, and like, because if they
It
can't,
is. Have you read the
not
I know,
much.
sorry. I'm
But it's like basically if you take away the bottom part of like that pyramid of needs, people are so focused on trying to figure out how to live that they're not focused on the policies and the politics going on everywhere because they just trying to get
Yes.
by day to day.
It's straight out of the dictator's handbook. I think everybody should read that and they'll be able to see this is what dictators do. They do this intentionally to affect a large population. It's a power play and it's really messed up. And it's like, what the heck happened? Like, how many how many of our elders and ancestors fought in wars so that America could have, some freedoms? And how many people have really like put their lives on the line to fight for social programs, to fight for the benefit of a good quality life in this country. You know what I mean? Like, coming from a Native American, people are probably like, what? But we're also Americans too, you know what I mean? And this is our homeland. And I feel like I'm honestly, I am enraged. And I've been enraged since like last November. So it
And
hasn't gone away. I'm
there's
upset.
like a high percentage of Native Americans in the military based on our percentage in the population.
Dude,
Again,
the
there's so many
highest
veterans.
population per capita. We Native Americans we enlist in the military at a higher rate of all minority groups per capita. And in the state of Arizona alone, we have close to 500,000 veterans. And a lot of our elders, they fought in every war. You know what I mean? Like my kid's father fought in Operation Iraqi Freedom. My brother and my cousins also went to that war. We have one of our relatives, they call him Salayaja. He fought in the Korean War. The kids' grandpa and uncles, they all went to they went to Vietnam. My uncle went to Vietnam. And then before that, we have our code talkers that fought in World War II. You know what I mean? Like legitimately fighting for our right for freedom, not just ours, but everyone in America. You know what I mean? Like if it wasn't for our people standing up to support um, our military, like would we even have a lot of the privileges and freedoms? Like people literally fought for the right to be able to have social programs like SNAP. Like there's a lot of people that might have not fought in wars, but they protested, they boycotted, they wrote legislation, they put pressure on the legislature to push for these programs because they were important and they're an actual need, and we all pay for it too. Like we all pay taxes. It doesn't matter if you even have a job or not. Anytime you buy anything, it's taxed, and that tax is supposed to go to social programs. So it's not for free. Like we're literally like paying for this every single day. With every dollar, every cent, a percentage goes toward it goes toward these programs. And so I think it's a lot of BS, and people are like, oh, they just want something for free. I'm like, no, everybody pays taxes. It doesn't matter. Even if you're not a citizen of this country, if you're here and you're buying anything and everything costs something, you're still paying a tax on that. And so it's really messed up that they're trying to take away these things. It's so wrong, because it's like the poor always pay the highest price, which does not make any sense. Like we should not be the ones having to pay the highest prices.
Yeah. And
But
then
yeah.
like another thing that comes up, I think, when thinking about food and food scarcity is like trying to buy from local farmers, like people in the area who have their own farming or
Mm-hmm.
have like, their own gardens. And another thing that pops up is like kind of like foraging off the land if you live in an area that
Mm-hmm.
has wilderness. But then also like
Mm-hmm.
a lot of that knowledge is lost. Like my grandma said she used to walk around like herding sheep and she would just eat wild onions, but she can no longer remember what an
Mm-hmm.
wild onion looks like anymore. She's like I used to eat onions. I don't know what they would look like anymore if I went out there and tried to find one
Mm-hmm.
now. So
What I would say to every Navajo is make some friends in Fruitland, because they have a lot of produce. And anyone who has a farm, you know what I mean? Any farming communities, make friends out there. Like that's who you need to know. That way you can have access to those fresh foods. My uncle, he lives out there and he brings food for my mom, like fresh produce. And even like when there was any kind of gatherings and stuff, I remember him bringing like squash and corn and melons and pumpkins and things like that, because he has access to them. Also, Nappy, up in near Farmington, they sell a lot of produce at really inexpensive prices. So if you have the ability to go out there and buy like, huge bags of like 50 pounds of potatoes, go for it. You know what I mean? You could distribute that to your whole family. You know what I mean? Like they have really good produce out there. So I would strongly suggest any Navajos to go out that way, and it's a circular economy because we also own Nappy. So it's like you have access to this. But out in that region, you can get a lot of really good materials, foods, natural materials out in that region. So I would suggest people like head out that way and make some friends out there too. Or if you have any relatives, or if you're looking for a girlfriend or boyfriend, or up in Colorado, if you want some good beef, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of ranchers that have their cows up there that are native, and they sell the meat. They can have it break, like, they can get you those fresh cuts. If you know anyone that has livestock like sheep, make friends with them. They'll probably be able to help you out and hook you up with some meat. and you can use the whole, like you can use the whole of the sheep too. You know what I mean? Maybe like buy a lamb, you know, like buy a few lambs, start a flock. Like there's things that you can do. Like if it really comes down to it, and I know it sounds like, oh, that's not, it's not that easy, Adrian. You know, I know it's not that easy, but we could, you know, these are just some recommendations. Um, and maybe now is the year you start planting your own food. You know what I mean? Maybe
Yeah.
you start with an herb garden, you know, maybe you plant a few seeds right now and see what comes of it, you know, for sure, you know, it's going to go somewhere. And
Yeah.
maybe like follow the ways of our people and pray for rain, you know what I mean? Um, it's happened in the past. The Hopi pull it off every year. So maybe make a friend with some Hopi too and be like, hey, I hear you have a field aid. Let's do some trade. I have a bunch of DVDs. Ew.
Tuba
I know
City
every
needs to
Navajo
like
family has a crazy DVD collection.
Tuba City needs to like clear out all of that farmland that they have and start planting again.
Dude, that would be so dope. Like down in Monavi, that's
Like
all good, rich
Curly
farmland too. There's
Valley.
like a water source that runs right by it.
Yeah, Curly Valley. You know, because like it's
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
you see like a little tiny
That's
block that has like a little bit of corn, but then the rest of it's just weeds and overgrowth. My grandma said that
I
used to
know
be
my
all
dad's
corn and
family has
vegetables.
my dad's relatives have a field down there and no one works it anymore. And my dad's like, I was asking him, like, why don't they work that field anymore? And he's like, because they're all a bunch of chamais. You know what I mean? Like, they'd rather do anything else than work on the land. You know what I
And they
mean?
should give it to someone
Um,
who will or sell it to someone who will.
that's what he was saying. And they're like, no, we're going to keep it for our kids. Like, oh, your kids and aren't working the land. Like, you know what I mean?
They
Like, you
live in
have this
Phoenix
pride.
and California and Colorado, like like
They're like, they're those folks that are like always you know, those like wannabe gangsters, you know? Like they'd rather like, you know, cruise around and try to look all bad and like, I don't know, like sell drugs and alcohol instead of like work the field. You know what I mean? They'd rather do anything besides what they should be doing. And yeah, I said it. Ew, just kidding.
that's the tea.
It's annoying. And I'm just like, man, like I would work that field if I had access to it, and they won't give it over though, because we've had those conversations. It
Mm.
sucks. And that's just how it is sometimes. You know what I mean? People shoot themselves in the foot. Like if every grandparent and parent could just whip their kids tonight and be like, go get on the field. We're gonna plant some corn. You know what I mean? We're gonna plant some potatoes like right now, you know, just chase them down and do something like that. I bet you anything by the next season we'll have a harvest. Like next harvest season, we'll have something to eat. But how many people are going to do that? You know what I mean? Like that's what I did with my kids, and it was nice, but it was hard. They didn't like it at first, but then they got used to it, you know? But like a lot of people don't do that. You know, it's like, well, I'm going to try to do something else. And it's like, well, if we could all just do what our ancestors did, we'd be fine. Like our
Yeah.
ancestors knew how to live on this land. They did not get any government subsidies. They did not have to go to a 9 to 5. They didn't have to get degrees. They literally just knew how to work with the land. They knew how to find water sources. They knew how to irrigate. They knew how to pray for rain. They knew how to, you know, conduct ceremonies so that their crops and their livestock would be okay. They knew the songs for their crops. They knew all the songs to speak to the weather systems. They knew all the songs to speak to their livestock. You know what I mean? Like that's just what that's how we survived. Like all these thousands and thousands of years. You know what I mean? Before there was any grocery stores. So like if we just did that, we'd be fine. But like how many people are going to do it, you know? Like who how many people know how to use like you know how to use like tools, like farm tools. You know what I mean? If you were to tell someone to go till the land, like would they know how to do it? You
I
know,
mean,
would
like
they
it's a
know
part
that
of
there's
like
a process?
teaching instead of just telling. You know?
Yeah, exactly. That's what we had to do. So I didn't know how to till the land. We had a community plot in Saley, and they were like, you can use that for whatever you want. And the fence was all messed up. And so we're like, okay, first we got to fix the fence. This will keep the rabbits and the cows out and the horses out. So first we fixed the fence. Then we had to like till the land. And I was like, how the heck do you till the land? I have a hoe and I have a shovel. Like, what am I supposed to? Yeah. And so we, yeah, so we had a neighbor who has a farm back home, and he was like, "Oh, I can help you." So we're like, "Okay, we'll cook for you, and we're gonna watch. Show us how to do this." And so he showed us the first few, like he did one row, and then he was gonna start the second one, and then he had each kid do it, and it wasn't a manual one, it was like a mechanical one, but he told the kids this is how you have to, so all the kids, they all did the rows, they all took turns. And then we started to like prep it, you know what I mean? We put, what I did was I got some like potting soil because I was like, oh, Miracle Grow, I'm gonna give this a shot. You know what I mean? So I put a little bit of Miracle Grow, and which is probably cheating, but whatever. And then we had the kids hold all of the seeds, and we sang a corn song, and we said, "Don't forget the song." And so we made them sing the song. And I literally had a book where it was like written down because I didn't know the song. I had to go ask a Hatathli. I'm like, "How do I sing a corn song?" And he said, "Okay, this is how. These are the lyrics." And I wrote them down. I had my little book, and we sang the song. And then we had all the kids take the seeds, and we had them plant it. And I said, think good thoughts. Think about how this corn is going to grow and it's going to be nourished. And these are like, think about it like they're people, you know, like they're babies that you're putting into the ground. And they were like thinking about it like that. And so we had all the kids plant the seeds, and then we had them covered up, and then we watered it, and then we just like had to take care of it. So every day we had to go out there and water it, and we didn't have a really long hose, so we literally had to fill pails and carry them over there and water like every single row by hand. And it took work, but because there was, you know, we had all of our kids helping, we did it as a family, it made it manageable. And then it just became routine, you know. And so when they started to grow, it was like so awesome when we first saw those first little stalks coming up, you know what I mean? It was so awesome. So, and then we taught them how to look for tea, look for tea and look for sage, because there was a lot of it, but they didn't really know. So we would go on these nature walks and we would point it out, say this is what you need. And then one time we're having a ceremony, and it was for my son. He was having his manhood ceremony, and the Hatathli told me you need to get fresh spring, um, like spring growth, like the wild onions or like wild celery or something like that. So I was like looking all over the freaking mountain. I didn't know what I was, I was like, where do I find it? He's like, go learn, get out of here, like figure it out. And I'm like, okay. So I was like, I'm like, is there an app for this? I had to ask people, like, okay, what does it look like? What am I looking for? And so we would go on these nature walks, and I would point it out to the kids. I'm like, okay, because I remember my mom doing this for us. She would take us on the walks, and she would point it out, and then she would say, okay, touch it, feel it, smell it, right? So you're gonna like learn what the texture is and learn what the smell is and take note of what it looks like, and then we'd move on. And then it got to a point where we could tell the kids, all right, go get some sage. And they would go and take a little bit of corn pollen, and they would make a little offering and talk to it and say, we're going to take this and we're going to use it for tea, or we're going to use it for medicine. And I always told them, don't take too much, just take what you need. And they learned that. And so they learned where to get some good sage. They learned where to find, what we needed and make tea and stuff. So it's just little things like that. It does take time, but it's not time that we don't have. Like we could literally decide not to watch Netflix and go do that instead. We
Yeah.
could choose not, like, doom scroll and just go outside instead. And
Yeah.
if you don't know, I always tell people, ask. Like there's people out there that know stuff. Like there's a lot of herbalists who set up at the flea markets, and I'll bet you anything, if you just started talking to them and ask them, they would be willing to share, information with you. And if you could even ask them, like, hey, can I go with you sometime to go forage, and pick some, like, whatever you need. And that's what people like. People love when you ask to learn something. And if they say no, then it's no. Ask someone else. I guarantee you're going to find someone who's going to tell you what you need. Because if I hadn't asked, like, how do I sing a corn song? I wouldn't know. Like, I had to literally go find someone and ask them, and I had to write it down. And I know people say you're not supposed to write the songs down, but I'm like, dude, I don't have that kind of memory yet. You know what I mean? Like, I had to write it down. And then this one guy who's a younger Hatathli, he was telling me that he doesn't actually write it out word for word because, like, he didn't go to Dina College, so he doesn't know how to write Navajo. But what he does is he'll sometimes write it phonetically, but he also created symbols for different sounds and for different words. And so he writes, it almost looks like a code. And he showed me in his booklet, he's like, I have a booklet here. And it's literally like pictures. It looks like almost like petroglyphs, but he knows what they all mean. And so that's how he remembers the songs. And I was like, oh, so he's like, do it however works for you. And I was thinking, that's kind of like bullet journaling. You know, you just create your own system and then you put it down, and then that's how you remember. So that was a really good piece of advice that I would also want to impart to others who are maybe like, running into some of these hurdles. Like there's definitely ways to figure stuff out.
And I think like there's a
Mhm.
saying in like the gardening community that like if you want to like
Sorry.
the time to plant a tree to get its fruit was 10 years ago. So just start it now,
Ah,
you know.
yes, that's true.
So like if you
That's
don't know,
true.
fruit trees take forever to grow.
Mhm. I know. I need to get her fruit trees. So the first thing I did when we got our house was I got two trees, one to represent me and one to represent my husband. And those trees are going to grow and they're going to be representative of us, and they're going to be there for forever, hopefully. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And I think that's really important to think about that. This one guy said, when you plant a tree, you're not like, don't think about how in 5 years you're going to be able to pick the fruit of that tree. Think about how in, he said 50, think about how in 50 years your grandchildren are going to be able to bake an apple pie. you know he's like, you got to think ahead, you got to do what you want for the future now. And I think that's 100% true. And like one of the best gifts I ever was given was my friend, his name is Dion. We worked at the Grand Canyon Trust together, and during the pandemic he was like, I was telling him like, we want to plant a cornfield, I don't know how to do it. And he was like, hey, I have something for you, can I come by like next week? And I was like, yeah, sure, we'll be home. He came by, of course, all masked up and everything, and he brought us these mason jars full of seeds. He gave us white corn, yellow corn, and blue corn. And he was like, this is from my family to you. And I was like, wow, I was so moved by it because his family, they have, he comes from one of those families that really take care of each other. He's really close with his parents, he's really close with his grandparents. He comes from one of those families that always gather, they come together, they help each other out, they plan together, they they have livestock and they have fields. And like when one of them succeeds something great, like they actually have silversmiths in their family that will make them custom jewelry. So like his family is kind of like, they've carried those old ways into contemporary times. And I'm always in awe when I meet people from these families because they're so different from how I was brought up. I felt like I was really disconnected from all of that. And then sometimes I meet people that I end up working with and they tell me about how their families function. And I'm just like, dang, like that is freaking awesome. You know what I mean? Like, wow, like, can I, can I come visit your family? Like, I'm going to take
Can you
notes.
adopt me?
I know, like, can I be a part of your family? But no, really, like, it's so cool to see that. And when he gave us those seeds, he was like, he knew what he was doing, the intention. And I really valued that. And I consider him to be like someone I will always have in my prayers probably for the rest of my life, because if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have been able to learn, and we wouldn't have been able to like have those first experiences with our kids where we were able to teach them the songs and the process for planting, and then how to care for a field. Because to this day, our kids have gone on, they've planted many fields since. Um, they would go to this agricultural camp every year, and they planted corn, chili peppers, melons, and then like last year they did this. They do these community service events with their school every year, and one year they were harvesting for one of they went to a field out in Fruitland and they were helping to harvest. And my son was able to say, I planted these. Like they were harvesting what they planted that past summer, and to be able to, you know what I mean, see the fruit of your labor, and to have those teachings carry on and kind of extend beyond you into your community and with your peers is so, it's such a profound thing, you know. And so they've gone on to plant many fields since then, and to harvest them, and then to also eat the fruits and the vegetables that they put in the ground. And that's really powerful. I remember the first time my daughter ate a watermelon that had been grown from seeds that she planted. It was just this really beautiful moment that she, like, when those dots connect, it's a really beautiful thing.
Hmm.
And so I hope that for everybody.
Yeah, it was something like we did that we planted pumpkins, like sugar pumpkins, one year,
Mm-hmm.
and they came in a little bit early. They came in like September. So it
Mm-hmm.
was like we can't use these for jack-o'-lanterns. But like we turned them into pies and we found recipes for like pumpkin cookies and pumpkin bread. And so it
Mm.
was really fun to like take the pumpkin and turn it into a pumpkin pie because my husband loves pumpkin pie. And then I think that was the same year I made that pumpkin pie syrup for you, or like the pumpkin spice
Oh
syrup
yeah.
to put in coffees to have like pumpkin
Mm-hmm.
spice lattes. But yeah, so it's really nice to be able to do that. And then like in your community, I'm pretty sure there's like a farm board or a gardening club or something, even like on Facebook and YouTube. There's tons of tutorials and videos on how to start gardening, um, how to get that going. And like even like for me, we started gardening because my mom is a part of the Mormon church. And so a big thing for them is
Mm-hmm.
like self sustainability. And so they helped us start our garden and showed us how to like amend the soil and do canning and all that other stuff that goes to like,
Mm-hmm.
being self sustaining. And there's different communities and groups out there that do that. You can just like reach out to them and look at a flyer for a community group, the gardening stuff. Yeah, so we're a little bit over our time, almost 10 minutes over our normal hour. And I just want to put at the end that, we're doing Vlogmas in December and we have merch for sale because, gotta try and sell that merch. It's on Fourth Wall through Happy Accidents. I'll put the link in the chat now. If you want to go check it out. There's Navajo Tea Time sale along with
Excuse me.
along with other programs that not programs but projects that Happy Accidents does. And yeah, don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell because we might have a couple lives during December. It just depends on how our schedules work out and meet up together. So we'll definitely try and post 24 hours before we go live. So in order to get that notification, you gotta click the bell and subscribe so you know, and you don't get left out again, Brandon.
Eh.
He said that last time. He's like, I didn't know you were going live. And I'm like, we posted, we gave you 24 hours notice this time. But yeah, so thank you guys for joining us. We got a lot of views, so thank you. Um,
Yeah.
you guys
Thanks
have a good night
everyone.
and a good fall season.
Yeah, if you guys have any, yeah, if you guys have any gardening tips or stories, you can share them with us. We'd really love that because we don't know everything. We know a little bit about many things, but I know a few things about maybe 5 topics. So I'm still learning every day, doing my
Yeah,
best.
and
But yeah.
if you have any like recipes, like I have a whole lot of cornmeal because like he's like Nappy did um a food donation over the summer, and I got a big bag of
Mhm.
cornmeal, and none of my recipes ask for cornmeal unless it's cornbread. And can't eat cornbread every day. And so if you guys
Mm-hmm.
know any other recipes with cornmeal, because I tried adding it to like a breakfast biscuit, and the whole thing just kind
Mm-hmm.
of crumbled apart because it doesn't stay together. Okay.
Cornmeal pancakes like it.
It tasted good, but it just crumbled. It didn't stay together like you would want a biscuit to stay together.
Yeah. Did I tell you that Nappy sent me a gift?
No.
Yeah, I was when I was looking for the foundation, they were like, "Hey, this package came for you," and it's all like from Nappy to me at my office, and I was like, "What?" And I opened it, and they sent me like white cornmeal, blue cornmeal, some juniper ash, and like